Welcome to the Fit for Success podcast, featuring in-depth, high-energy interviews with entrepreneurs, executives, fitness, health, and nutrition experts, all sharing their best strategies for raising your metabolism, energy, and taking back control of your body. You'll learn what other busy entrepreneurs and executives are doing to feel healthy and energized so they stay at the top of their mental and physical game and create world-class results in business. And now, here's your host, Kristen Nolan.
Hello and welcome to our Fit for Success podcast, designed to help entrepreneurs and executives generate the energy and stamina they need to perform at their highest levels in their career. My name is Kristen Nolan. I'm a high-performance health expert and speaker for busy professional women and men. And today I'm interviewing speaker and Emmy Award-winning NBC and Wall Street journalist, Kare Anderson.
Honored to be here.
Wonderful. Kare speaks and writes on ways to be more deeply connected and widely quoted. Her speech for TEDx received over 1.6 million views, and her speaking topics include become an opportunity maker, hidden behaviors that bust or burst your credibility, and becoming an unforgettable face of your company, to name a few. Her blog, Moving from Me to We, focuses on ways to accomplish more with others because she believes mutuality matters, and I couldn't agree more. Kare, welcome to our show.
Thank you. Delighted to be here. Delighted about your core mission too, by the way.
Thank you so much. I appreciate that. So let's not waste a minute. Can you please tell our audience a little more about how you help your clients become more charismatic, influential, and magnetic speakers?
Well, what I do is suggest to them ways that they connect in the beginning. And the counterintuitive way to do that is it's not how people view them, but how they feel about themselves when they're around it. So bringing out someone's better side is more likely for them to see and support yours. So having some insights in advance saying, I was really honored or really interested when you did da-da-da. And I'd like to know more about it because we may have some shared interests. So it starts by talking about them, not me. So for example, even CEOs, when they give their quarterly meetings to all hands on deck, they usually say, here's what we're going to do. I wanted you to know about it. Here's why. But it's about us instead of you, the audience. So instead, I taught them to say, well, because of your input and the ways you've succeeded the last quarter, I believe there's three things that can pull us all forward faster. And I want to cite three people in this group here who helped me get that insight. So-and-so when he said such and such, so-and-so when she said this and such, and so-and-so when they said da-da-da. In light of that, let me tell you what we honed out of that. So they shine a light on them rather than on themselves. Even in this last example, I really believe when you make someone's look good in front of people that matter to them. So for example, for several clients who are CEOs of companies, I said, when you honor your employees each year, find out through their colleagues another organization to which they belong that matters to them. So for one, it was a cycling organization. Another, it was their synagogue. And then they approached that group and said, we're going to honor your member at our organization, but can we surprise them in conjunction with you and also honor them briefly at one of your events and pay for the food and the wine if we want to do it? So that's a multiplier. Because everybody feels better, and there's no better way for people to love your company than for them to see someone honored that's a part of their life. So I consider those leveragers, multipliers, but it's stepping outside of yourself after you're very clear about what's your top goal, so you project less on them, and you see where might there be a sweet spot.
Yeah, well, it completely takes the focus and attention off of, yourself and puts it onto other people. So you can, I bet it opens up your mind so that you can really see the bigger picture in what matters for the organization that you're trying to work with.
I think that says it very well. And ironically, when you shine a spotlight on others, it burns brighter for you. That's why the goal is, I believe the key word for me is specificity. Mm-hmm. Once you get specific about your core mission, you're more likely to pull in people, resources, and opportunities where you can participate in that and you can get their involvement and you can be there for them in helpful ways.
I love that. And tell me, what got you so passionate about spreading this message of putting the emphasis onto the people that you're trying to help and work with?
I think I've always believed that it's a wild world out there, but in this tech-enabled world, the law of unintended consequences is becoming the norm, not the exception. So good and bad can hit faster from more places. So the key skill to learn, I believe all, is to be quotable and connected with people that are unexpected allies, so you're naturally more interesting and more credible. So I felt that when I interviewed people for years. I had a wonderful bureau chief in London, and he did something I just strongly suggest for everybody. He saw a talent in me that I didn't recognize, and he told me about it. Mm-hmm. And I'll use a bad word. He says, I have you, and I take you out to do a story. I say, do this story, and you keep asking them questions. Now, some guys that ask that many questions, you'd get hit in the face, but somehow they keep on answering. So I want you to come back, do the story I asked you to do, keep notes on what else you learned, because you may have an unexpected side idea for your next story from them. So he basically told me an insight that I was so curious about people. Growing up a stutter, it was quite a change. So I say to individuals, if you get specific about your top talent, the flip side is what you're not good at. Those are your most valuable allies to pull in. And I believe, I just realized I didn't like pushing at people, and I get all these professional PR people sending me press releases that don't relate to what I do. So the joy to me was saying, wow, you can have a more adventuresome, accomplished life with others when you set sparks off, when you suggest, hey, you might do this and you could double your audience just because you pull them in because you'll meet them in a different place. But does that make sense to you?
Yeah.
So you suggest, but you listen closely. And they say, well, actually, it doesn't. This is why. I said, oh, of course. And so you don't talk at them. You really do show you're talking with them.
Right. Yeah, that I can see why you'd be so passionate. I mean, it makes a lot of sense. You must have gotten, so many offers for different topics that you could talk about. And of course, you'd want them to be relevant to you and your heart and the message that you are trying to share via journalism, right? So
exactly. That's right. Well put. Yes.
So it makes a lot of sense to me that you would want to share with people how the heck they can do that and take the focus off themselves in the process. I love that.
Because you never know. You never know who can be helpful to you later in your life. And it's a constant surprise who is helpful and who isn't. And I believe if you help enough other people in ways that are helpful, you often get help from people you didn't know could provide it sometimes, even sometimes before you knew you needed it. That's pretty priceless.
Yeah, it really is. I always say, you can't see the picture when you're in the frame. So
I like that.
Right? So having people on the outside looking in, telling you what they see. I mean, and it's funny, it always amazes me. I was just having this conversation with my husband the other day, how easy it is for me to look in on other businesses from the outside and say, oh my God, there's such a huge marketing opportunity that they could take advantage of. And sometimes I really don't see that for myself. And I think that's because I'm just so deep in the work that I do.
Yeah, it's called The Curse of Knowledge by Skip and Dan Heath.
Right.
But the more sides you get to a situation, and we're in a tumultuous world, and negative behavior is more contagious than positive.
Yeah.
So the smart ones are the ones that are picking a point when someone they disagree with does something they agree with and say, I'm so impressed when so-and-so did it. Unexpected allies make your life richer and more interesting.
Yeah, it really does, huh? It's wonderful.
Yes.
So, you've had quite a few accomplishments. I have to commend you. Published 5 books. That's amazing, first of all, and many articles in media such as Forbes and the Huffington Post. You've spoken in front of countless large audiences, and you're an Emmy award-winning journalist. Anyway, how have you managed to keep yourself top of mind when it comes to getting your message out there? And what advice do you have for others so that they can do the same?
I believe if you get really specific about your top mission and your top talent, it's only then when you get specific, it dawns on you, well, actually, it's 5 degrees over, or maybe it's not that. Mm-hmm. And I call it sidelong glancing. Then you're more likely to notice people or resources, and so you naturally can attract them, and in concentric circles have a set of allies that are helpful. And my core mission is to enable people to become opportunity makers, as we said in the TED Talk, with and for others, and have really unexpected allies. I call it the rule of 3. So one of the things I do with clients is I say, let me help you get specific about your core mission. Mm-hmm. And then let's think about piggybacking. Piggybacking means what's a trending story or an event? And when it happens, jump on it and ride that energy, but find 2 other people that no one would expect to see you standing with. So, for example, I coach people in San Quentin prison. 3 of them got out, and they look radically different than me. But we've gotten to know each other very well. I said, I don't believe in free. I believe in exchanges. So they helped edit my stuff. Nice. So when we took a stand in San Francisco to have more public art when new buildings are built, they, along with a guy from the Golden State Warriors, for very different reasons, we believe in art in public places because it pulls people together. The prisoner, because they were in such dire cells, they really believe in physical, beautiful art. And that Golden State Warrior friend of mine, he said, we need things that bring unexpected people together. How else can we expand our reputation if we don't have accidental ways of meeting those people? I want to be known well outside the sports world. And my ex-prisoner friend said, I want to be well known as stable, not real angry that I was put in jail illegally for 10 years. Mm-hmm. So together, I mean, we look startling together. We get specific, and we have a prop and a place. And so in the rule of 3, I put together 19 different groups of 3 where I said, you may disagree about some things, but on this one thing, taking this stand at this time in this way with this place and citing these people, it has interestingness. Messages have air when they're actionable, they have interestingness, and they're relevant to the audience you want to seek to serve. Making it almost as valuable as oxygen. I call it air.
Yeah, you know what? Absolutely. So you've got people rallying together. You've got things happening or people going together that are unexpected, and so people pay attention. So that's
yes.
The masses pay attention that way. So tell me this: how do you help? How do you help your clients really dig deeper to find out what that specific core mission is for them?
I say it's when time flies. You're in the middle of something and the time has just flown by. Mm-hmm. And often one of the easiest ways to do it is you see what makes you most upset. Look at the flip side, and what does that feel like? And then look at the patterns in your last month, and then ask at least 3 to 5 people around you, what do they notice seems to be the things you ask follow-up questions about? And then specificity, because it can't be a category. For example, I really believe in helping refugees right now in Europe through technology. Getting into the refugee camps enables them to get jobs so they're more valuable to get out. So that's a multi-layered specific thing that took me a month to get specific on. But without that, I wouldn't have gotten a tech company involved in doing it as a demo project. So I kept thinking, what's most bugging me in the news? What most makes me cry? What most inspires me? And that's where, because we all have our own operating system, we've got to be wired to what we react against and for.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And what made you so passionate about helping the refugees?
Because it's a growing problem, and it's going to be much worse before it gets better.
Right.
And the only way I think I could help them is if I make them more valuable to other people so they're safer. So I just started thinking that way. It's just like I feel solitary confinement in prison is horrible. And I drilled down to that. So I worked for 6 years with Obama to try to cut down the number of people that can be put there. So again, when you see, oh my gosh, or when someone says something, you say, that is so inspiring, they're doing that. So those are the ways I try to do it. Specificity breeds clarity in yourself, reduces misunderstanding in your communication with other people, and makes you more credible and memorable. So that's a lot of power, and it was worth the time doing it. Not staring at a flat piece of paper, but writing something down and then looking sidelong glancing your life and say, where am I getting pulled?
Mm-hmm. That's really funny that you mentioned all this, because I was on the phone with a colleague last night who just spent 3 days at Tony Robbins' Business Mastery. And she said one of the biggest points that he kept driving home was the but was the reality of specificity and how incredibly crucial it is when you have a team working underneath you. He kept saying that if you are not specific, so much time gets wasted, projects get pushed off to the side, things don't get complete the way that you want. And it all comes down to getting really honed in on every last detail so everybody is on the same page, and it can go down the line without taking, forever, with tons of edits and lots of misunderstandings. It's like a bad game of telephone in most companies, right?
You were very specific in a sequential way. By the way, that sequential is like steps across a pond, so I could stay listening to you. And I'll add to that because he's really brilliant at doing that himself, and he's evolved in his life. Mm-hmm. But think about people crave connection. More people are living and working on their own. So have small teams within your company, small teams that get tight-knit, and not more than 7, because that works in the military. It works in all kinds of ways. And then say each of them have their own rules of engagement that by which they'll abide, but then have reasons the different small groups have to interact with each other. Mm-hmm. Rules of engagement are mutual accountability, and that's powerful. And I've been teaching that in a lot of big companies, cross-departmentally. Enable people to use their best talents with others who are too around things that are meaningful. And then candor when you disagree. Candor and a thread to a conversation. Mm-hmm. So that takes discipline. That takes close listening. But the funny thing is when people start doing it, it's like dry alcoholics. Once you've gotten off being an alcoholic, you really get bugged that other people aren't too. So when people start doing these things that you spoke about that they learned at the event, and I've taught, they get really bugged when people are running sloppy meetings, that they're not being straightforward, that they're not getting to the point, they're not specific. Mm-hmm. So I think it's really a good way to scale in a company. Cross-departmentally when there's people that have got your back. So, yes.
Yeah. And how brilliant of you to say, okay, so you have your little teams and each of the teams comes up with their ways. It sounded like you said a structure in which to work from, just based off of efficiency, like the way they can be most efficient working together, but they all develop it individually. Is that what you're saying?
Yes, like we might agree that we're always going to have 2 actions that are needed we decide on mutually before we have a meeting. Mm-hmm. By the way, Gore-Tex runs its company that way, and it's famous for it, if people looked it up. And also Saddleback Church in Southern California. It's a huge church.
Yes.
But they have subgroups. And I can't say the name of the company, but there's a company that's global, and I've gotten them started on doing that too. And then the teams get to present to each other and get candid feedback, both about how they say it and what they're saying. Mm-hmm. And I believe in an intranet in a company. A man named Andy Jankowski. He develops the best ones, enterprise strategies. He's now at IBM. But an intranet that's run well, I can ask you a question. I can send you an email. Do you know who or how to? And you can send me. Well, right away, within a couple of months, you notice who gets asked for help most. Who's ignored? So you see the threads of connection and the power structure in an organization. Right. And often it'll cause a change to happen in the structure because of that.
Yeah, because you're empowering the individuals. That's awesome.
And you get to see who's most valuable, who's been most helpful. Yes.
Yeah. Wonderful. So, one consistent theme that you talk about is the importance of being aware of engaging in behaviors that boost or bust your credibility. how do you feel one's physicality, because this is a Fit for Success podcast, but how do you feel that physicality plays a role in this? And do you have any specific examples? And, the reason that I'm asking you this question is because one of the things that I feel is that, the way that you show up really matters, especially when you're a high-level entrepreneur or executive. If you show up, and my friend Eleanor Beaton calls it on the rested edge versus the ragged edge, people, right? People yes. Will perceive what you're saying much differently. Right. So how do you feel physicality plays a role in this theme that you talk about?
Well, you inadvertently set me up to give you what I think is the highest compliment. First, it's called a genial face in repose, which doesn't mean we smile all the time, but warmth, like your eyebrows right now are slightly elevated. That's one sign of openness and interest. And another is literally... The other is literally having fewer, lower, slower movements when you're first around somebody. As Gypsy Rose Lee, the famous stripper, once said, anything worth doing well is worth doing slowly. I don't mean by that. But gestures that are curving, not jagged below the waist, they're dramatic and they look more welcoming. Mm-hmm. A genial face in repose shows warmth. When I did NBC, there's something called a likability rating, which doesn't relate to goodness or smarts. The guy who's the star of Dirty Jobs has the all-time best score. If you just watch his face, he pulls people in of any shape, size, color, whatever. But also, if you have patterns on the upper half of your body, it breaks up people's attention span. If your throat is visible, we don't know why. People view you as more vulnerable and caring. So for men and women, that if there's busyness behind you, then it breaks up people's attention span. So I'm just giving you, but also for a study of juries, now reinforced with some other studies, if I sit at a right angle rather than across from you, women tend to face each other directly. That's a standoff in nature, but a right angle is often better. And men will tend to sidle, standing more or less side by side. Furthermore, the last one I'll suggest is being in motion together. You tend to get in sync. That's why walking to the meeting together sometimes is more productive than when you're actually sitting at the meeting. Oval tables are better than rectangular or square, and round is second best to oval. So there are things that we can put in place, and ambient noise in the background is agitating. So, one of the best things we can do is being very specific when we're in the meeting about citing specific things. Two people have said things so far that I think take us down the path to be most productive in reaching a decision. When so-and-so said this and so-and-so said this. So I think citing that sets a standard. So going back to physicality, warmth, smoothness, and the last thing I'll say is what I call a screen face. We tend to look down at our iPhones, which is horrible for our neck. It's going to be wretched. But people increasingly are looking up with the face that inadvertently looks dour or even irritable.
Yeah.
Because they haven't recomposed their face. So these are some of the ways that we can connect better. Finally, to tap, the only place that's comfortable to tap when you don't know people is the upper back part of the upper arm. And a good handshake. So upper back or the upper arm be below, above the elbow, or here on the forearm. So, but I would be very careful with that until you're convenient and you look somewhat safe to people. So those are some of the ideas I'd suggest.
Wow, those are really interesting, especially the one about looking down at the phone. It's interesting because one of the things that I do with clients is I help them to strengthen their vision. So I help them to strengthen their eyes because I see the way that they work. They're at a computer all day pushing their head forward. Their eyes get extremely tired. their 6 eye muscles get weak because the only place they look is across or down at their phone, like you said. So it's very interesting being more aware about just resetting and almost recomposing yourself before you look up to engage with somebody, isn't it?
Fascinating what you just said. Thank you. Yes. Wow. Uh-huh.
Yeah. So, and I love that because it, so many people they're so lost in the technology that they forget to, sort of get back into the reality and, oh yes, I am with people. Let me, let me look at you and see you and hear you. It bothers me actually. Speaking of something that bothers me, it bothers me when people are kind of looking and they're just half-assed listening to me. And I can really feel it, So I love that you teach people to be aware of that. That's amazing.
Well, thank you. And you were giving me some great examples that caused me to learn. So I really like that a lot. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. So where can our audience go to learn a little bit more about you and the consulting you're doing and the speaking that you're doing?
The website is called sayitbetter.com. And there's a free blog on there called Moving From Me to We. And they can look up keywords there and see which one relates to their current situation. So I've been doing the blog for about 6 years. And if it's for speaking, they can click on there to do it too. I'm cutting back, so I'm only doing 4 speeches a month now. I was doing about 8, and it's just more than I want to do with the causes. But yes, that's the best way to start.
Okay, so sayitbetter.com.
Yes.
I love that URL. That's fantastic. That's really good. Well, Kare, I cannot thank you enough for being on our show and for joining us today. And if you love this interview, you want to know how to work with Kare or book her as a speaker, please go to sayitbetter.com. And if you are searching for a way to get more energy so that you can be on stage, feel magnetic, and develop a solid sense of inner confidence, then please visit my website at fitforsuccessquiz.com. Take the assessment, and then you and I can hop on the phone to see what components might be missing from your program so that you can feel healthy and energized to perform and feel your best. Thank you again for joining us on Fit for Success, and we will see you next time. Bye.